if Jonbon was to lose and he's in everyone's accumulators, I'd be kind of thinking, well, why didn't you put a few more solid horses in there? I think there's better shorties throughout the week.
Hello and welcome along to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. This is it. We've been building all season up to this very video. This is your 2025 Cheltenham Festival preview. We're a week out. Andrew, talk to me. How are you feeling?
Very excited. If you can't get excited at this time of the year, you don't really deserve to enjoy this great game. We've obviously been looking forward to it. I must say there's been years in the past, probably last year, wasn't maybe enormously enthused by how the festival is shaping up. I must say this year I am enthused.
Absolutely. We've got some big news to talk about across all of these races. If you do enjoy this video, please hit that like button. Get your festival fancies, get your festival nap down below, and we'll be giving a prize to the horse who wins at the biggest price. One horse down below, and we're looking forward to seeing all of those. And then also, if this is the first time you've seen us on your screens, hit that subscribe button. We do content throughout the whole of the jump season, mainly aimed at younger people, but we try and
there's no discrimination.
No discrimination. We try and take on everyone. Yes, lots and lots of fun to be had. If you have watched us before and not yet hit that subscribe button, please do so. But over the next roughly hour, we're going to try and make it under an hour, the video in total. We're going to be talking about every single race at the 2025 Cheltenham Festival. And just to preface, these are our thoughts. We're a week out. Horses might run in different races. Horses could go elsewhere. Our minds could slightly change if we're umming and ahhing about two horses in the same race. But you will be able to find all of our final selections over on our Twitter. They'll be linked down below in the description. And if you're in the Middlesbrough Loftus area tonight, we're doing a Cheltenham preview. And then if you're in Birmingham as well, we're doing a Cheltenham preview tomorrow. So all details will be for those in the description. We hope that you go and purchase one and come and see us. That'd be great.
Yeah, it will be.
Right, let's get stuck into things. The Tuesday of the Cheltenham Festival, Champion Day. It's the one day that gets me most excited all year. Walking to the course, all the dreams are still alive.
I'm going to back 28 winners this year.
I am backing 28 winners. There's no disappointment at that stage yet. And the only way you can back 28 winners is if you back the winner of the Supreme, the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Loftus Hurdle. A lovely touch.
Yeah, very good touch from Cheltenham, and it looks a very good race to honour his life, and obviously what was a fantastic day 2 years ago.
Absolutely. Galopin Des Champs is your 5 to 6 favourite roughly across the board. Is it a case of he's simply the best horse in the race, he's going to go and win, or could the occasion get to him, which is what a lot of people on preview videos and the panels are trying to get him beat? Yeah,
I can understand, because obviously his antics before the race at Leopardstown were up and down. He was difficult to saddle up, all of that. But I've tried to go down this route before with Willie Mullins horses, and we're going to turn up in the parade ring. He's going to walk around like a lamb, and he'll have earplugs in. They'll take the necessary. He might even have a red hood on down to post. I just think he's the best horse in the race. Look, at the start of the season, I'll make no bones about it, I backed Romeo Coolio and William Money for this race. I think both of them have each way chances. I think arguably William Money's the second most talented horse in the race. I'm just not convinced that the Supreme is going to suit him. I think the Supreme could fry his head. Romeo Coolio is probably the each-way thieves horse. Could struggle to see him out of the three, but also struggle to see him beating this horse. And if you were to maybe get even money, perhaps a shade odds against on the day, I think he takes a lot of beating.
I think he takes a lot of beating as well. The occasion didn't get to Classical Dream. And I think the one thing that people aren't talking about is Galopin Des Champs has ran 3 times under rules. One at the Fairy House Easter Festival, one at Leopardstown at Christmas, and one at the Dublin Racing Festival. Like, yes, it's not the Cheltenham Festival,
but they're big days.
Big days. Yeah. He's handled the occasion on three occasions. Obviously, Cheltenham's a different ball game. There's going to be 70, 80,000 people in attendance. It's going to be everything just turned up to the max. Will that get the better of him? I don't think it will. I think he'll go and win. Romeo Coolio, I would really like to see him kicked out early. Maybe not take it up. Maybe not make all.
Yeah.
But given a really aggressive ride at the top of the hill, go and win your race. Because I think that's the only way he can possibly get Copet de Board in trouble.
Yeah.
But for me, I agree with you, William Money. I'm just not sure his jumping, especially in the early stages at that speed, will be quite good enough either.
He's too keen. I really like the horse. I think he's got an awful lot of talent, but he needs to do things better than he's been doing.
Yeah. So we're not telling you anything you probably didn't already know. Copet de Board, odds on for the Michael O'Sullivan Supreme Novices Hurdle, and I think we'll both be siding with him.
I believe so.
That might not change in the Arkle with regards to backing short price horses. Madgeborough is 8-13. We've got Le de Sud in there for the Skeltons. Django By 8-1. Don't see the angle with him really at all. But Le de Sud and Madgeborough are the two standouts here. Madgeborough leading the way in Ireland this season. He won the Triumph Hurdle last year. He's a horse who, should Gino have run, or if he had run, would have been second favourite and maybe wouldn't have had the absolute, not saying he didn't have the superstar potential, but maybe not the superstar potential over 2 miles, whether now he finds himself very warm favourite. Le de Sud did everything right at Warwick last time, other than probably 2 out to the line.
Yeah.
Is that just... I get the feeling that you really don't like him for that.
Oh, well, I just thought it was a pretty tame finishing effort. He beat Roubaud, who obviously went out. Look, we're trying to get every race in between an hour here. This is a race we can make up time. Madgeborough wins. Let's move on.
Madgeborough wins the Arkle. Right, the following race is the first handicap of the whole festival, and it is the ultimate over 3 miles and a furlong competitive handicap chase. The Irish last won this race in 2006, so although you dominated the festival pretty much ever since then, you're not going to win this one.
No, and it hasn't stopped me from backing Irish horses in this race in the past.
Surely at some point you've got to learn.
No, I'm not going to do it this year. I don't think the Irish Challenge is very good in this race either this year. I can't really see the angle behind it. Difficult, I'm quite a big fan of the Changing Man, but he's a brutal price at this stage for a horse that doesn't like winning too much. I do think he's got a bit of Oscar Elite about him and, might run a good race. If he was 10-1 on the day, I might back it each way. I came down on a horse I backed in this race last year and he fell in Trelawn. I thought he was overpriced at 14-1. He's had a good season. He beat a Rocco at Haydock. 2 good efforts off his current mark. He mightn't be handicapped, massively well, but at the same stage, this race does seem to suit horses that go year in, year out in the race, and I think he might overrun his odds at 14.
I agree. I think that type of profile is something that I'm looking for. The one big trial before this race, every season that works out well, is the Old Hennessy, the Coral Gold Cup, and Broadway Boy and Henry's Friend both ran in that. Broadway Boy was a good second, Henry's Friend I think was fourth, and they've both been in relatively decent form since. Broadway Boy was disappointing on New Year's Day at Cheltenham. Henry's Friend last one at Newbury. I feel like they both got big chances here. Broadway Boy's been freshened up for the race. Henry's Friend goes there in good form. Then there could be a little bit of juice in their mark. So Broadway Boy and Henry's Friend are 2 horses that I like, but not yet decided on one.
Okay.
The following race is the Mares Hurdle. And at this stage, we don't know if Lossiemouth is going to run, but it looks extremely unlikely.
Yeah.
That means that Jade de Grue, he's going to be short price favourite. I'm actually going to take her on.
Okay.
I just didn't think the form of her return was all that.
Okay.
Obviously, she's spent a long time off the track, and you could maybe forgive her for that. But I wasn't blown away. Whether July Flower beating Carla Conti, I think, is better form.
Yep.
And there are a few others down there. Joyeuse has been supplemented who just go into the race. I think.
Do you think she wants 2.5 miles?
Who? Jade de Grue? Joyeuse? No.
No.
I don't. I wouldn't fancy for this at all. I'm not sure she absolutely wants 2.5 miles. I'm also not sure she's quite good enough.
No, she was a blip the last day.
Where do you sit with this? I'm really undecided.
I'm a big fan of Jade de Grue. I think she's the worthy favourite. Obviously, if Lossiemouth isn't in the race, I think we've got to preview it as if she's not in the race. That being said, she did have a knock before Christmas. It's been a bit of a late preparation. She won, as she should have done, against horses inferior to her at Punchestown. I would be possibly siding with you, but maybe same side as you in terms of form line, but maybe not the same horse. I don't know whether she's definitely going to run here or she might run in a Coral Cup, but I'm going to back Carla Conti no matter where she runs at the festival this year. She's a likeable mare. She travels well. She's a strong enough stayer. She jumps well. And this race, if Lossiemouth isn't in it, reminds me of the year that Black Tears won it. and Jay DeGrugy might be the concertista, where you think she should win. She probably might win, but actually there could be a bit of an upset. And Calaconti's the type of mare I'd want to be on side. She's around 12-1.
I think that she's definitely got a chance. The way that July Flower beat her on the last start.
The only thing I would say about the race at Leopardstown was they went quick out in front, and then Lotta Joy completely fell in a hole, and Calaconti was left in the lead at 2 out, which is a long way from home. And I think Danny Gilligan had to go at that stage, but he was kind of left there. And I think July Flower, who had sat completely off it, may have been slightly flattered. She may also be just a better mare than Calaconti, but I would think there's enough discrepancy in the price for me to want to back Calaconti, who was giving July Flower away to Christmas, over the July Flower.
No, I think she's got a good chance. I've not yet really decided where my money is going to go. Would be leaning maybe towards July Flower, but need to see the complexion of the race first. One race that's going to be absolutely fascinating is the feature on day one. And that is the Unibet Champion Hurdle. We've got Brighter Days Ahead. Finally, they've confirmed she's going to run. We're going to get Brighter Days Ahead versus Constitution Hill versus probably Lossiemouth versus State Man. It's going to be some race. The one thing for certain is if any horse is going quicker than King of Kingsfield in the first mile, they're going way too quick. He will basically tow Brighter Days Ahead into the race. Yeah. Will that suit Constitution Hill?
I think it will. Yeah, I think he's possibly been seen to his absolute best in the past when they've gone quick. You know, you look at the Supreme from a couple of years ago, even at the Christmas Hurdle with Burdett Road.
Right, so talk to me. This is a wet dream for racing fans. Who's going to come out on top? Because Bright Days Ahead arguably goes into the race the most in form.
Yep.
She absolutely dismantled the field at Christmas. But then, was that State Man's true running? You'd think that's unlikely. It was set up for her perfectly. It's going to probably be set up for her perfectly on this day. But Cheltenham, Constitution Hill, Lossiemouth, State Man, it's a different ballgame.
It is, and I think I've been guilty in the past. I know I did it in the Supreme, where I took on, like, we obviously didn't quite know the extent of how good Constitution Hill was back then, but where I was like, what's he beating, and all of this sort of garbage. The greatest thing about Brighter Days Ahead is it makes this race, which I thought for kind of months and months was never going to be a betting race. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a betting race, but you can have a bet. And I think there's an argument Constitution Hill is going to be even money or potentially even odds against on the day. I will find it very difficult not to part with some of my hard-earns and back him. I just think he's still the champion. And they've got to prove. They might prove it. They might be too good. Brighter Days Ahead. You know, maybe Lossiemouth. I struggle to see it with Lossiemouth and State Man. But he's the man that Brighter Days Ahead has to go to get rather than the other way around.
You know how much I love the mare.
You do.
I'm still with Constitution Hill. He's not been beaten yet. Until we see it, he is the king. I completely agree. And Constitution Hill will hold my money, I believe. The 440 is the Fred Winter Juvenile Handicap Hurdle, and I mean, I put Beyond Your Dreams up at 25-1 in the Antipode series. She's now about 8-1, 7-1. I did not see that coming.
No, it's a skimpy enough price at this stage. I wouldn't mind holding a 25-1 docket, though.
I feel like she's got a good chance, but I think people are presuming that Mark Walsh rides her. Yep. I don't think that's a certainty by any means, because if you watch Put Your Hands Together when he finished second against older horses behind Collaborative, I 100% feel they could have won that race if they wanted to.
Yeah,
they clearly had this race in mind. It was an all-important third run. Put Your Hands Together is 12-1. Beyond Your Dreams have been backed as if defeat is out of the question. I still think she's got a great chance. I think she could be chucked in. She beat Slurrican off levels by 3/4 of the length. Slurrican then won on his next start. He's been given a rating of 126. Beyond Your Dreams, Slurrican? He. Beyond Your Dreams, 1, 2, 3. Off that form line, yes, could be chucked in. Off the form line where she finished up the arse of Total Look and beat Wendrock 4 lengths. Wendrock got 136. Total Look got 132. I completely see it. She could be well in. But I don't think Mark Walsh is going to ride her. Yep. I think Put Your Hands Together will be the mount of Mark Walsh, because James Reevely's already going to ride Stencil.
Yep.
And he's going to pick between one of these two, I suspect. And I just think that he will feel Put Your Hands Together slightly classier on the flat as running against the older horses. I see him riding Put Your Hands Together. I'm not sure who will ride Beyond Your Dreams. I think they've both got big chances. I'm going to back them both. I hope it's Beyond Your Dreams for the Anti-Post series, but I think people are slowly forgetting that Put Your Hands Together looked an absolute
stop job last
time, and that this could just be the big day.
Yeah, look, it's very difficult, getting into the mind of Joseph O'Brien and JP McManus. It's tricky. I'd want to be on at 25-1. I think 10-1 and shorter is very skimpy. And you made the case when you made it at 25-1. She can't jump.
No, she can't.
And maybe she'll be able to jump, and they'll have done plenty of schooling with her, but she couldn't jump.
Ruby Walsh made her his nap of the meeting.
Yeah.
And basically said that she's had since December to improve. They'll probably put headgear on, and if that happens, her jumping will be better. My worry is her jumping puts her out of it. Look, if she's at the bottom of the hill in contention, there'll be very few that finish quicker than her, because she, in all of her races, she powers to the line. I just wonder if she's going to be in contention.
Yeah. I'd just be a little bit concerned. But look, I think they're two very, very good chances. They wouldn't be. I put up Holy See for the race, who disappointed at Naas. He's been slapped by the handicapper as well. I think he's been given 125 with his Irish rating 119. I think, by all accounts, he's going to run in the race, which I suppose is something, but hard to see the case for him. Of the more fancied runners, I'd be on Total Look, personally. I like the fact that he's got a bit of course form in the bag. The last day was obviously as eye-catching gets. I think he's just a little bit more of a straightforward horse than maybe a Beyond Your Dreams. I think he's maybe got a little bit more street smarts about him.
The final race on day one is the National Hunt Chase, now a 0-145 handicap. Who do you fancy here?
Best bet of day one for me here, Haiti Colour. Really fancy him for Rebecca Curtis. I've liked him all year. He was second to Destroy the Evidence at Chepstow when he should have won, made a mistake at the last. Won at Aintree, won at Cheltenham, beating Transmission. And then, they put him away for this race.
Looking back at that run at Cheltenham, sorry to interrupt, Transmission was hitting the line very strong.
He was.
And this is obviously the extra half a mile.
Yeah, but I think Haiti Galore was given an all-action ride and kind of won the race that he was in for that reason. I don't think Haiti Galore was stopping. Transmission was closing. I do get that. But I liked his reappearance run. I thought when he ran in the Newbury Handicap Hurdle that it might be a bit, why are they running here? But he ran a very encouraging race, hitting the line hard again. I don't think he's handicapped out of things. My only worry, and not discrediting who it will probably be Ben Jones who will end up riding him, was I really wanted Jonbon on him.
And he'll ride Resplendent Grey.
Yeah. Just not what I wanted to hear, to be honest. I wanted Resplendent Grey to be in the Ultima and away from it all. But unfortunately, we're not going to get the services of Jonbon. But Ben Jones, an able deputy, I think Haiti Colour's got a huge chance.
I like that form line, but I'm going to be siding with Transmission.
Yep.
Just feel like he's an out-and-out stayer. Has won at the track this season. Think that the extra trip will be right up his alley. Think he could be still well handicapped of 133. Obviously, the Druid's nephew went to the Cleve Hurdle before winning at the Cheltenham Festival. Neil Mulholland has ran Transmission as his prep run in the Cleve Hurdle, so he clearly fancies him. This is clearly the target. I think he's got a massive chance. Right, now moving on to day two of the Cheltenham Festival, and the first race here, the Turners, has taken a bit of a hit over the last 24 hours because the rumours are Final Demand could possibly run in the Albert Bartlett. We've got drying ground, drying conditions all the time. As you're watching this, it's becoming like a desert at Cheltenham. And Brian Drew came out yesterday, the owner, and said that he's 70-30 going to run in this race. But the fact that they're even considering the Albert Bartlett at this stage so close makes me feel like it's probably being considered slightly more than he's letting on. We're going, because he said 70-30, we're going to take his word for it.
Yep.
We're going to pretend he's in the race.
Yep.
The New Lion, Final Demand, the Yellow Clay is probably going to run here. How do you see the race developing?
Well, I think it will suit possibly the New Lion, personally, because it's just maybe a little bit more emphasis on speed. I think the fact that Final Demand is being thought of even as going up in trip would indicate that they may have some slight concerns over his pace at this trip. And look, this is very odd of me to be putting up the English novice against an Irish novice, but people will throw stones at the New Lion's Shallow Hurdle form, throw stones at the Shallow Hurdle.
Have you seen the form of his previous run.
Exactly. Exactly the point I was going to make. He beat Calafet en Val, who won the Sydney Banks. He won French Ship, who's been winning races left, right and centre. Electric Mason was in the race. But people don't want to kind of mention that. He beat the Nichols horse, is a Belliamo at Chepstow, a pretty decent horse in his own right.
The only horse who hasn't come out of that race before the Shallow that won was the 5th, and he finished 2nd.
Yeah.
And his next start, 3 lengths behind Belliano.
Yeah, but so it's kind of one of these things where it suits what people want it to suit. And personally, and people can knock it, and Final Demand could win by 10 lengths. I'm not saying he can't. But everyone's giving out about the Shallow Hurdle form. That Nathaniel Lacey form isn't worth a bag of crap.
And it's never produced a Ballymore winner, really, has it?
No, but it's not like Mossy Sisters third, Jasmine DeVoe can't jump, Wingmen's Wingmen, he's grand. Like, that form is no better.
It's Willie Mullins and Paul Tanner. I understand why people are backing him.
I do get that. But at the same time, like, are we to think that JP McManus is a mug?
Yeah,
why is he paying the amount of money he's paying for this horse?
Any chance the Yellow Clay?
No, he'd be the one I'd really be against. I can see Final Demand winning the race. I know I've kind of made a case against him there, but I can see a world where he wins it. I cannot see a world where the Yellow Clay wins this race.
6 Mile Bridge, Potter's Charm?
No, well, 6 Mile Bridge has been, a convicted cheat after trials day, and Potter's Charm, they've unfortunately ruined that horse.
I agree with you. I think the New Lion's going to go and win this race. I think he's got the speed on his side. The stamina's proven. I've been mightily impressed with every single run. JP McManus has gone and bought him. I think the New Lion will go and win the Turners and beat Final Demand of Willie Mullins and Paul Tanner. And we're probably just talking.
We're absolutely talking about
Dancing City in the Brown Advisory, taking on Ballyburn.
Yep.
I've confirmed where my alliance will be.
Yep.
I am going to be with Dancing City. And I know that you've taken a full 180.
Yeah, I've complete turncoat stuff. People that have watched us all throughout the year have been really against Ballyburn.
I do not like him.
I really don't like him.
But now you fancy him.
Get to the festival. I think he'll win this race, to be honest. I just think with the way the ground is going, I can't see it being an enormously attritional race. I think it's going to set up a little bit more like how it set up last year. And I think Ballyburn can't be beat if that's the case. I know you've backed Better Days Ahead in the Antipost series in terms of like at 16-1, a good each way price. I don't want to pour, cold water on it. I cannot see the case for Better Days Ahead in the slightest. People are still backing him at 6-1, 7-1. I just think he's a worse version of Dancing City. Like, if it turns attritional, I think Dancing City wins. So I don't see how, unless the 2 Willie Mullins horses fall, where Better Days Ahead wins the race.
No, I would somewhat agree with that. I think he's got plenty to find with them. We don't know quite how good that Martin Pipe form is in comparison to Albert Bartlett last year. I suppose that's the one slight interesting one. You could imagine one of the 2 in the Martin Pipe could come out and run a massive race in the novice handicap chase later on in the festival. I agree. Dancing City for me is just a bit more of an old-fashioned chaser. I don't love Ballyburn over 3, and I think they're going to make it a real test because I think they'd be stupid not to. I think Craig Park will go out in front and really test the stamina.
Yep.
And I think that will suit Dancing City. Right, the following race is a lottery, the Coral Cup. Just give me a couple of names.
Farron Glory is one that I'm interested in. I think it's a race that suits a slightly classier horse. Quite a lot of the time it's horses near the top of the weights rather than the bottom of the weights. He was a horse I didn't like over fences last year, Grade 1 winner last season. Thought he was eye-catching in the Boyne Hurdle. I thought he might have a chance, and obviously there's the complete elephant in the room is running in the Coral Cup, as confirmed, Big Xander C.
What do you feel about that?
I think he will run a good race and come fourth, because that's what Xandor does.
I am coming around to Comfort Zone in the Coral Cup. I think that he's got a good chance. I think Imposed Trois also has a good chance. Still could be improving for Nicky Henderson. And then if Queen's Gamble runs, I think I have a small...
Yeah. Also, as considering I'm putting her up for the Mayor's Hurdle, if Calaconte was to run in the Coral Cup, I would back her.
Massive chance. Interesting. We'll obviously have our final selections on our Twitters. The following race is, and it's really confusing me, the different orders of the racing.
Yeah, it is putting me well out.
But the following race is the cross-country chase.
Yeah.
And Stumptown It's a big ask, isn't it, off top weight?
It is, yeah. He's off a large weight. He's a good horse, and he's been rejuvenated by cross-country fences. I think the way the ground is going, the way it's drying out, I'd prefer to be on Galvin myself. He's just got a bit more form at the festival. Obviously fourth in the National last year. He's a really good horse. I know he's getting old at this stage, but that doesn't necessarily count against you in the cross-country. He'd be, for me, getting a bit of weight off Stumptown. I think he's got a great chance.
I echo your thoughts. Galvin for me as well. Getting weight off Stumptown as well. I thought Galvin could be near enough top weight. I think Vanilla will also run pretty well.
I think he'd want a bit more juice.
He would. But if he possibly gets that, we don't know exactly the weather forecast. But I think Galvin and Vanilla will hold my money. Jonbon in the Champion Chase. Is it going to be his year?
I'm going to sit this race out, I think he should win. Everything points to him winning, but everything's pointed to horses winning in this race before, and they haven't won. And he's certainly not going to carry my last fiver.
Is he not at least half a stone better than anything else in the field? He's probably a stone better than them.
Yeah, maybe. At Sandown, at Ascot, I don't think he's a stone better than everything at Cheltenham. I think he's a 165 horse at Cheltenham. I think he's a 170 plus horse elsewhere.
The ground will be in his favour.
It will be.
Yep. He's beaten Solness this season.
Yep.
Marine Nationale couldn't get by him. Gaelic Warrior's been a nothing horse, really. Energumene needs a real deluge of rain, and so does Gaelic Warrior for that reason.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking it away. Like, all the things point to Jonbon winning, and I will allow him, like, if he wins, great, and he does deserve to win the race. But at the same time, you look back at his last 5-6 runs, and he's pretty much made all to win every time, been able to dominate. I think he's at his best when he's dominating inferior horses, and he's not going to be able to dominate in this race. And that does cause just a small bit of concern, because the last few times where he hasn't been able to dominate, mentioning the Clarence South Chase, mentioning the Arkle, mentioning the Supreme Novices Hurdle, he's been beaten in all of them.
I think he's going to absolutely shit up.
Yeah,
sorry for the French. I think that Solness going out in front will actually set it up for him. I think he's been needing someone to tow him into the race. I think, yes, he's been able to dominate, but I don't think Nicolas de Boinville will be at all worried if Solness goes out and makes it a real flip.
Of course
He'll
he's
just
not
sit
gonna
behind him. He's the best horse in the race. He's proven that this season. He's beaten Energumene. Yes, that was at Ascot. Yes, that's almost in his backyard. Yes, his best performance has probably been at Sandown in the Tingle Creek in the Celebration Chase, but Jonbon's a horse I just haven't got right ever. And I've fallen out of love with him. I really liked him as a novice hurdler, but I just feel if we're looking at this race, if this was any other horse, really, we'd be going, he's an absolute certainty for the Champion Chase. He's beaten everything.
Yes. But, like, look back at the last 10 years of Champion Chases. Duvan, 7-1 on, 9-2 on. Tefi de Soy, 4s on. El Fabiolo, 7-2 on last year. It's a curious race.
It is.
And I think Jonbon probably will win. Like, I'm in no rush to back anything against him. Like, I love Marine Nationale. I don't think he's going to win the Champion Chase. I'd love him to win it. He probably will carry a sporting 5 or 10er of mine, but that's around the height of it. But if Jonbon was to lose and he's in everyone's accumulators, I'd be kind of thinking, well, why didn't you put a few more solid horses in there? I think there's better shorties throughout the week.
Jonbon will win the Champion Chase. The following race is the Grand Annual Handicap Chase. Really competitive, really difficult to work out. Unexpected Party won the race last year and actually looks pretty well treated. If you look in the form behind, they've all gone out and won. Do you like anything in the race?
Tricky. Look, like, probably you look at the Irish horses and, you know, without kind of taking the piss, the horse in form is on Pian Darragh. Now, I rang James Nolan yesterday. He said it was probably 70-30 that they step him up to the plate, which I don't fancy him in. I'd much prefer him in the Grand Annual personally. But he'd be the one maybe from the Irish lot that's improving at a decent rate of knots. He'll be in off a low weight, 12-14-1. But yeah, it's very difficult to get away from Unexpected Party. Like, he's just, it looks a bit of a Langer Dan sort of. He's been masquerading around and he's turning back up pretty much off the same mark.
I agree. Dan Skelton might have the 1, 2, 3, 4 of this. He's got so many horses who have got chances. I actually thought one at 33-1 in Calico. I don't actually really like him as a horse.
No, I don't.
But he won and beat Matata there at the start of the season. He's 33-1. Hasn't been changed much from that win. thought he was massively overpriced if he were to turn up. And then the final race on day 2 is the Champion Bumper. A division this year, I normally get so excited about bumper horses, but I've just not been excited about any of these. And the favourite is Game of Inches. We took a hit this week with Wind Beneath My Wings, not going to the race. David Pipe announced that he had a setback. But Game of Inches, I understand why people are thinking he could be the one, because he's the Willie Mullins horse who's looked recently impressive. But to me, he struck me as like a proper 3-mile chaser of the future. He's massive. He didn't look like he had loads and loads of gears. And yet he's favourite for this race. For me, he's not like the ready-made champion bumper horse by any means.
No. I'd have, like, if I was to have to pick, I'd have certainly picked Cabana out of those two. Like, I thought Game of Inches looked like a ready-made replacement for Final Demand. Like, they were kind of almost like twins, the two of them. Now, I know they're in the same colours, but they're huge, big horses, as you say, probably 3-mile horses in the future. It's not a race I have an awful say in, to be honest. Like, that Aqua Force was very impressive for the Guns at Goran Park. That was only a couple of weeks ago, though, on heavy ground. You know, she's now been bought by Willie Mullins and JP. She might have a chance, but she has to turn around. She'd maybe the one that would carry a bit of my money, but it's not a division that does anything for me this year.
Nothing for me either. Moving on to day 3, and the first race on day 3 is another novice hurdle, but it's the Mares Novices Hurdle, and 6.5 is the favourite. Do you think she's got a favourite's chance?
Very much so, yeah. I'd fancy her out of the ones at the top of the betting. She's a good, strong travelling mare, good horse on the flat, very impressive on hurdle debut.
I want to ask you about Diva Luna.
Yeah,
because you put her up on the Anti-Post series.
Yeah, put her up in January at 14-1. I think she went out to 25s after getting beaten at Sands.
She's now 12. She's got the value.
I know, a little 2 points tonight. I think she's the type of mare, and I said it at the time, that just will run well in this race.
She will, yeah.
Like, she got beaten at Sandown when Ben Pauling's horses were under a bit of a cloud. Got beaten by probably a pretty decent animal in Castle Carrick as well. And I just think she'll be prominent. She stays well. She's got course form. I think there's enough to lure me into an each-way bet.
She has a very similar profile to Love Envoy and You Wear It Well.
Yes. Now, I'm not kind of convinced that will continue to happen, where we get these slightly exposed English mares novices winning this race. But she does, and I think she'll be ridden in a very similar way, which I think the way the race has been going seems to suit.
Yeah, at Aintree when she won the Mares Bumper last year, I think she won that through stamina. Yes, she had class, yes, she had speed, but she outstayed them ultimately. I feel like they need to give her a similar ride to how I think they need to ride Remo Coolio in the Supreme, and basically get to the top of the hill and go, right, catch me if you can. And I think she'll be very, very difficult to stop. I think 6.5 is a worthy favourite. I don't know where my money's going to be here, but I do think that it's leaning towards the Gavin Cromwell mare.
Yeah, and it's very fair, and she won like she liked. I suppose the only thing niggling me with her is that she beat Qualamita, and, you know, everyone's there going, oh, Jesus, a fantastic performance. Like, the Stable Cat could beat Qualamita. Yeah. Like, she got beaten again 10 lengths the other day at Leopardstown. Like, she's just becoming quite an exposed horse. So maybe she was slightly flattered, but I think based on all of her flat form, she's a well-worthy favourite.
The following race is the Novice Handicap Chase over 2.5 miles, and I really like one here in Nürburgring.
Yep.
I like him because he won the Galway hurdle, got given an Irish hurdles mark of 150. Now finds himself off a British chase mark of 143. I hope that the 3 ones we've seen him over fences have just been a case of this has been the target. They wanted to have as low a mark as they possibly could for this race, and this was the big plan. He could be a Galway chase horse, or the Galway plate, sorry. But I'm going to trust that's not the case. And if he goes here and his jumping can improve, Nürburgring's got a massive chance.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's just one of those, I've been struggling to ascertain whether this horse is just a complete plot or whether he kind of resents fences. It kind of looks like he doesn't like fences, but at the same time he's been ridden cold. When over hurdles he was best ridden prominently. He's clearly well handicapped, and I'm hoping potentially that the slightly nicer ground will really suit here. And I'm going to take the chance off his mark that today's the day. I think it's very difficult to go against him. I think if there was a similar deluge as there was on the Wednesday last year, and you turned up into soft ground on the Thursday, I think Answer the Cave probably has a little bit more juice in his mark. I wouldn't really fancy him on better ground, though. I think he really does need a dig. As for Nürburgring's the exact opposite. He wants it nice.
I really like Nürburgring. I think a big price who could run well is Personal Ambition for Ben Pauling. I think that this has always been the target. If you look through his form and he turns up here off a pretty low mark, I think he's got a big chance. Right, the following race is the Pertemps at 240, the Pertemps final, and I'm going to give the floor to you, mate.
Yeah, well, I've backed Feet of a Dancer at 14-1, I think, on the anti-post, and I think she's still 14-1. I think, and it's a trotting phrase that I hate making. I do hate making it, but she's only 14-1 because people think Paul Nolan can't going to train too many festival winners.
Well, everyone's been putting her up, and she still hasn't really budged in price.
But I just can't comprehend it. Like, I don't see what more people want. Like, she's got a nice profile. She's got a nice racing weight. She's ran enlisted mares races. She was then third in the qualifier. Like, you could have potential reservations about her stamina, but I think other than that, there's an awful lot going for her.
Have you worked out the chant for the Midnight Tipper with her yet?
Yes.
Go on.
Well, no, you've got to wait. You've got to subscribe. You've got to subscribe to LTR.
Does it go along the lines of rhythm is a dancer?
Oh, I think there's something like that. Oh, geez, I've got a few absolute beanos here. The only thing I will say is that the National Hunt Chase horse will have correlation to Shakira and Leon Bailey.
My mind is blank, but I'm looking forward to that. Go and follow Andrew on Twitter. You will not be disappointed. Cheltenham Week is always wonderful.
I know, but just
although you can always tell when you've not backed too many winners because you don't get one on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. I've given up at that stage. Usually had too many beers as well. But I think just in regards to Feet of a Dance would be the main selection. I think my main danger for the race would be the horse that beat her at Christmas. I think Win Some Lose Some's got a good chance.
Well, I hope that he hasn't got the best chance because I hope that the JP McManus team are looking at this and going, let's just run the Wool Park.
Yeah.
I understand that he's got a massive chance in the stayers, but I got the impression when speaking to Gordon earlier at the start of the week that it was 50-50.
Yeah.
Don't think it's absolute certainty. If he runs here, he's the class act. I think he's still got juice off his mark. He would be a contender in a stayers hurdle.
He would.
Off top weight here, I would love the Wool Park if he ran. I put him up at 10-1 in the anti-post series. I think he's now 11-2.
Yep.
I would be so warm, and I think he'd go off a short price favourite if he was to run. I just hope they make that decision.
Yep, I can see it.
He could run an hour and 20 minutes later, but
Let's hope he doesn't.
Yeah, I hope Gordon looks at that and goes, we've got Teahupoo for the stayers. Let's run the Wool Park here.
Yeah. Obviously, from my perspective, I really don't want him here because he's an enormous danger. Mm-hmm. So I think JP needs to realise he's got a real good stairs hurdle chance on his hands.
The Ryanair Chase is now next, and it looks like Factifile is going to run, but the ground, I don't know, is that going to be a factor? Because Gaelic Warrior probably needs to go up and trip if it's quick ground. It's a difficult race to work out, isn't it?
Very, very difficult. Very few kind of confirmed runners. As a result, I wouldn't have an enormously...
We're just going to have to carry on. We're going to have to carry on.
It's intriguing. We're getting clearly doesn't agree with my Ryanair selections, but I think Protectorate's probably the safe horse in the race. If there's a Factifile or something, you could be in a spot of bother, but he'd be the one I'd maybe be leaning towards, but it wouldn't be anything strong. Yeah,
I think Factifile, if he was to run, would have a massive chance. I think if he doesn't, I think they'll run Gaelic Warrior. I think he'd have a big chance up in trip, but the ground wouldn't really be in his favourite. I agree with you. It's going to be a tricky race to work out. The following race is the Stayers Hurdle.
Yep.
And you said there's better shorties to back than Jonbon. Is Teahupoo one of them?
Yeah.
Just goes and wins.
Well, this horse seems to be kind of nobody's friend on the preview circuit. Everyone's trying to take him on. And I'm just there going, with what? Like I can maybe see the case for Lucky Place, but, it's Gal Road form. I don't think that's brilliant. And people are putting Home by the Lee up. Like, how's he turning the form around?
No, I agree.
I just don't see it. I think he just goes and wins. It's as simple as that.
The following race is the Plate, and for those wondering, I completely agree. Teahupoo will go and hopefully win the Stayers Hurdle. The following race is the Plate. Very, very difficult to work out who's going to win this because there's no absolute standout, and John Joe might run 3 of the first 4 in the market. Really difficult to work it out. I like 2 at big prices.
Yep.
I like Fugitive possibly.
Nice, yeah.
Because the last 3 winners of this have been 11, 10 and 10.
Yep.
It usually goes to an exposed handicapper who's towards the front. Now, Fugitive isn't always ridden forward. That's my one caveat. You think of Cool Cody, Seddon, and last year's winner was Shake 'em Up Harry. They were all pretty much leading, jumping 2 out or jumping 3 out. I think Fugitive got a big chance. I think he's relatively well handicapped. I was enthused by his run in the demonstration on his last start. I think he's got a big chance if he was to run. And then the other one I like is Grandeur Dam for Alan King, who ran in the novice handicap race on Charles Day, finished behind, was it Moon d'Orange?
It was, yeah.
He's more prominently ridden. I think he's got a big chance. I think he's like 25 to 1. Quite like him as well. So Fugitive and Grandeur Dam, small each way plays.
Yeah, not a race that's really intrigued me a whole pile, to be honest. Like, these John Joe horses, I kind of don't want to go down this route again where I'm backing John Joe horses and they disappoint me. Obviously, a horse like Springwell Bay will have a huge chance wherever he goes, but it's going to be hard pressed to part with my hard earns at around 6 to 1 to back him. So not a race that kind of inspires me at the moment. So I'll have to think a little bit closer to the time.
The Kim Mule.
I quite like Yeah Man in this for Gavin Cromwell. He was a soft unseated haydock the last day. He's got some good big handicap form. He's off 144, which I think is lenient enough. He's 10 to 1. I thought he had a good chance.
I quite like Midnight Our Fred.
Yep, I can see that.
Fancied him for one of the races at the start of the season, didn't I? And he didn't run.
You did. It was the Amateur Riders Handicap or something at the November meeting or October meeting.
But I thought his return behind Percival Lagalwa was a very good one. Obviously, we had Nick Rocket in 4th. He's gone on and won the Thursdays.
Yes.
So Midnight Alfred for me, I think, will have a big chance and think he could be well handicapped. Right, now moving on to the Friday. And the first race on the Friday is the Triumph Hurdle. Looks ultra competitive. We've got 3 standout contenders. We've got Hello Neighbour, we've got Lulamba, and we've got East India Doc. East India Doc has been to Cheltenham this season and he's walked the walk. He's shown us all how brilliant he is. Will he be that brilliant in the Triumph Hurdle? You suspect that if he is, he's going to take a good bit of beating. But we do have possible real superstar potential in Lulamba, don't we?
We do. I know quite a lot of people are trying to even it up in terms of kind of bringing the Irish form closer to the English form, and I know in the past that has been a very good way of going about it. I don't see it with this race. I still believe that the 2 English horses are a bit clear. I think East India Doc's been really impressive at Cheltenham. He'd maybe get the edge for me just because he has that course form. He's shown his ability at the course and jumps slick and he travels strong. Lulamba's the obvious danger, and you just don't know what you're getting yourself into there. Is this horse Sergino? Like, there's a very good chance
he is
that he could be, and that we'll be looking at it a bit like the Burdett Road Sergino situation last year, and you'll finish second, 10 lengths clear of third, but you've been beaten 7 or 8 lengths. I'm always the case of I prefer the form in the book than the potential on paper, and therefore East India Doc just for me.
East India Doc for me as well. I completely echo your thoughts. I actually think that he's a very, very good jumper.
Yeah.
He's a classy flat horse. He was improving all the time, and I just think that
horse,
he's loved Cheltenham as well. He suits it because he's just so ready-made.
He is, yeah.
East India Doc for me. The following race is the County Hurdle, and I'm just going to put 3, all 5-year-olds actually, in there that I think will have a big chance. I think Cargisi has got a big chance.
Yep.
She could be well handicapped off 141, I think it is.
Yep.
I think Bunting has got a chance off 139, and then I'm just coming around to Lark in the Morning as well, last year's Boodles winner. This could just be the plan, and if it is, my goodness me, could he be chucked in?
He could be, yeah, and I think arguably a bit of better ground will suit him a lot better than it did last year when he won on heavy ground. I backed Ethical Diamond for this race. I think he's a horse that has a chance. I'm a little bit concerned that there's another 3 or 4 Willie Mullins horses in there that all have chances. Like there's obviously Kopak Demi in there, who I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later on with other handicaps in mind, but he could run here. Absurd could run here and win again. It's difficult, but I think Ethical Diamond does have a chance. He's around the 12, 11 to 1 mark. He'll do for me.
The following race is then the Mare's Chase, I think it is.
It is, yeah.
Tricky one to work out, isn't it? I have no say in this at all.
No, not massively. If you pushed me against the wall, I'd probably back Dino Blue, but it wouldn't be with any great kind of conviction. Wouldn't necessarily fancy the Cromwell mares in this race, to be honest.
The following race is the race that you absolutely love, the Albert Bartlett. And who's going to win it, Andrew Blair-White?
Well, very dependent on who runs in the race. This is the problem. This race could be an excellent race, or it could be a really ordinary race.
If Final Demand was to run...
He wins. I'd be all over him in this race.
I agree. He's just a machine, isn't he?
I'd also be backing the Yellow Clay in this race if he ran in it. But he's got absolutely stone's chance of winning the 2.5 mile race, in my eyes. Anyway.
If neither of them run.
I think the Big Westerner would be the right favourite. I think she'd have a very good chance. I'd maybe give a bit of a spin to an Argento Boy. He was a horse I mentioned on one of the previous videos at 33 to 1. He's now into 20 to 1. Just kind of one of those slightly rustic, old school Albert Bartlett, stays forever, kind of just gets the job done slowly.
Are we going to get it? Is Galopin Des Champs going to win a third Gold Cup?
I'd say Simon Holt is currently pacing up and down his...
What am I going to say? What am I going to say?
What am I going to say? What am I going to say?
Writing it all down.
Yeah. And then, I've got one here. 3 Gold Cups.
He's going to win, isn't he?
Yeah. I don't see who's even going to be running against him. Like, it kind of feels like it's going to be only a 6-7 runner race at this stage, and I don't think there's almost going to be a single horse in the race that he hasn't already beaten, potentially bar Bambridge. I know people will maybe argue Bambridge has a chance on good ground. I still would struggle to believe Bambridge will really stay 3 mile 2.
Especially at Cheltenham as well.
Yeah.
Galopin Des Champs. It would be absolutely amazing to see. Racing needs horses like Galopin Des Champs. And if he was to go and win, it would just be...
No, magic.
Magic.
Absolutely magic, yeah.
It would really be awesome. Any fancies in the Fox Hunters?
No. No, I really don't. Look, I'd love to profess that I know the Fox Hunter form. I think Bardenstown Lad's going to run.
Yeah, he does.
But God only knows. Again,
whoever's upstairs
clearly wants to saw my head off with Bardenstown Lad chat, which is fair enough. I think we should move on to Martin Pipe.
The final race, we're just going to have to plough through this. If not, we'll never get it done. The final race is the Martin Pipe. They're doing work upstairs. The final race is the Martin Pipe, and Copec de Me is the short price favourite. Now, been given a mark of 136.
Yep.
When listening to Ruby and Matt Toombs talk about it in the week, they were basically saying that if this horse was rated in a different way, or with the form that he's shown in France, he could be given a mark of 160, 165.
Yeah.
Which means he's absolutely going to gag her.
Yeah, I did listen to that and I kind of went, really?
Yeah.
I can see the case, yeah. Look, he's one of those horses. He's a very short price at this stage. I've kind of missed the boat from a price perspective. Whether it be a horse that you'd have a saver on the day to make sure, maybe another bet would be kind of cut off, perhaps so. But, as I say, I've just missed the boat.
This is really distracting.
It is, slightly. But, look, he could win. He could win with his mouth open. He could finish nowhere. I wouldn't have a clue.
So who are you siding with?
I'm siding with McLaurie for
Okay.
Emmett Mullins. I hope he runs in this race rather than the County Hurdle. Thought he was impressive at the Dublin Racing Fest, won with a bag in hand. And that race, I think, was good. Storm Art was probably a little unlucky in second. Fourth horse, Old Man Dingle's a pretty good stick. He'd be the one for me at 8 to 1. I tell you the one I wouldn't be enormously keen on is Woodoo.
Why?
I just think an awful lot's been made of that race at Cheltenham. Oh, such great form, Joyeuse in behind and stuff like that. Like, we were saying it at the time, that Joyeuse was the most kind of unlucky winner, or unlucky second of all time. She was dictating an extremely slowly run race and kind of was quickened up under a canny ride from Danny Gilligan and won. She's 4-5 to 1. I don't believe she's anywhere near as much in hand as some of these JP geldings.
No, I would somewhat agree with that. I think people are just
Clearly
obviously
the man upstairs believes it as well, because he stopped.
But if you look at the second, third, and fourth in that race, obviously all gone and won a Grade 2 listed race, and the William Hill Hurdle, formerly the Betfair. So I understand why people are siding with Woodoo, but I agree with you. I think that.
Well, I just think at 14, 16 to 1, it was a decent price. If you got those types of prices, well done. But like at 5 to 1, it's awfully skim.
I'm going to take a chance that the Enabler has been targeted at this race and they're working back. He's a smart bumper horse from last year. he would scream the Martin Pipe horse in any other year, but there are some horses at the top of the market who are well found.
Yeah.
He was dropped down to 2 miles at the Dublin Racing Festival. That was way too quick for him. I'm not really sure that. I think maybe they were just teaching him going a quick pace in a handicap.
I'd say so.
Gordon Elliott, Jigginstown. Jigginstown have got a great record in the race. He's 20 to 1. I'm going to have an each way poke on him.
I could see it. Yep.
That's it. That's our Cheltenham Festival preview. A massive thank you for all the support this season. Genuinely, it means an awful lot. Thank you for all the support on recent videos. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And this is it.
It's the biggie.
It's the biggie. We hope that you have a very profitable week. And we might be back with a video this weekend. But until then, we'll see you soon.